So assuming that people know where they want to go and have clarity over that, the number one concept that I can share that would be really valuable in on the show is understanding opportunity cost. Okay. Now, for me to be on here with you, Ellis, I said no to a couple meetings. I said no to potentially a lot of stuff. So there's a cost for me to be on here with you. I'm saying no to everything else that I could be doing. The same thing goes with our money. This is Better Wealth with Caleb Guilliams. Welcome to another episode of the Better Wealth Podcast. In today's episode, we are covering the Kingdom Capitalist highlights. My interview with Farnoosh, the highlight reel that I did was taken super well. You guys all enjoyed it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to be more intentional. If I have a good interview, to maybe make it shorter, give you the highlights, and give you the ability to listen to that quickly. And this is with a good friend of mine, Ellis Hammond, and this guy is incredible. He was in the ministry field, got really felt strongly to leave ministry and start this idea of Kingdom Capitalists. It's all about Christian entrepreneurs and real estate investors understanding how to be successful business owners and investors and do things for the kingdom, but just also to be effective just human beings. I got the opportunity to speak at their summit and loved it. And I gave some good resources about the AND asset to the audience. And Ellis said he opened up the interview and surprised me and pretty much said, "Caleb, you were one of the most well-loved speakers," which again, there are some incredible speakers there. So that obviously made me feel good. And what's also funny is at the end of this highlight reel, you will hear the blooper, and it has to do with my last name. So if you ever are wondering how to pronounce my last name or the process that I go through and what I tell people, you'll have to stay to the end. It's pretty funny. But again, I would love to hear from you. So if you're watching this on YouTube, please leave comments if you have questions or takeaways. Also, hitting the like button, it means a ton when it comes to algorithms. Just like if you're listening to this on the podcast, reviews and sharing this and subscribing to the show, it just tells the algorithm that we're relevant, people are listening to us, and they bump us up, and that always helps as it relates to getting our message to the world. So without further ado, here we took a 46-minute episode and brought it down to 13 minutes and 38 seconds. So enjoy 13 minutes and 38 seconds of the highlight reel from Kingdom Capitalist.
Welcome, everyone, to the Kingdom Capitalist Show. This is a highly anticipated show. I've been waiting to feature this guest for a very long time. He was at the summit, and he doesn't know this, but was, I think, one of the most sought out speakers after the show. I've heard a ton of great reviews from his presentation, and he has an amazing story. At 21, he started his company, BetterWealth, and he's only 24 now. He's at 7 figures. Has 11 employees, and by the end of this year is going to be in 50 states. What is the problem that you and BetterWealth are out to solve for the world right now?
So when I first started at the bank, a big dilemma that I had was I looked at what most people are doing with their life, and it was not aligned with what they told me what was important to them. And I realized that people have this amazing potential in life, and yet what they were doing with their time, abilities, and their money was the exact opposite. I'm making up a word here, but they were devaluing the number one thing that they cared about. And so Better Wealth was really birthed from this desire to help people reach their highest potential in life. And our slogan is really that we're the key to helping you live in a more intentional life now and in the future. And quite frankly, I don't believe you're wealthy if you're not living intentionally. Like, I don't care about how much money you have or what you're doing in business. If you're not living an intentional life, you need to take a look in the mirror and ask the question, how can I have more money or have more wealth? Nothing to do with money. It has everything to do with living intentionally. And there's a big dilemma, and it's people don't know how to master money as a tool, and they don't know how this relationship between controlling their money and growing their money. And the person that understands how to master both of those will win in the end. And that's just something that I've like I've been grateful to see both sides, like the why side, getting super clear on like why this matters to people, but then also like actually the tactics and strategies to help someone get to where they are, to where they want to go.
I think that's so good, dude. That's so good. Is if you don't even, you're hearing this, man. Well, okay, it starts with a vision. I don't even know what I want. Then go find some people. Like get around a. If you don't have a vision and you don't even know where to begin, you're probably not hanging around people who have big enough visions because you're not motivated to go solve a bigger problem, right? You need to go change your environment. You need to go change who you're hanging out with. Because when you get around people like Caleb, right? Like I'm ready to run through the wall behind me. You know what I mean? Like, it's like, okay, yeah, I'm trying to serve a bigger purpose here. And so that's such a good word, man. Such a good word for, I mean, that's really all of our audience. I think that goes young or old. I think the principle applies there. If you're still struggling with what is my vision, go find the people that you admire and figure out what theirs is and who they're trying to serve. And I think things become a lot more clear that way. What do you mean by mastering money? And how can we help our audience in the 20 minutes that we have today to really understand what you mean by this and what your company's doing to help people?
So assuming that people know where they want to go and have clarity over that, the number one concept that I can share that would be really valuable on this show is understanding opportunity cost. Okay. Now, for me to be on here with you, Ellis, I said no to a couple meetings. I said no to potentially a lot of stuff. So there's a cost for me to be on here with you. I'm saying no to everything else that I could be doing. The same thing goes with our money. Every decision we make has a short-term and a long-term consequence. And my hope is that I can explain this in a way that it can just click for people, because if there's anything that I've learned from my mentors and companies is their idea to do this on the fly. Okay. Now, long-term, how you measure long-term opportunity cost is just a function of money, the amount of money that you spent, lost, or used, the interest that you could have earned over that period of time. That sounds familiar. That's compound interest. Albert Einstein's noted for saying it's the eighth wonder of the world. It's essentially you put money in a place that will grow over time. You have this hockey stick growth. So by me spending $10,000 on a car when I was in college, I spent $10,000, but that car actually cost me probably a couple $100,000, assuming that my $10,000 is no longer able to grow for me over the next 50, I'll give myself 60 plus years at, let's just say, a conservative 5%. So like understanding that like there's a long-term cost to that. Now, most textbooks, financial people, gurus will talk about the long-term effect and why you should start soon and all this kind of stuff. What very few people understand or think about is the short-term aspect of using your money. I believe that your greatest financial need is using money throughout your life. And the person that understands how to control their talents, control their wealth, and invest in the things that, whether it's themselves or opportunities that they're quite good at, like is going to leverage their ability and create wealth. And so not only did that $10,000 never be able to work for me ever again, but I gave up the control over my $10,000 today that I won't be able to invest in marketing strategy or hire an employee or start, do whatever I wanted to do. So there's a short-term and a long-term element. I'm not telling you not to go out to coffee. I'm not telling you not to buy a car. I'm not telling you to not do anything. I'm just telling you to be more thoughtful and understand that every decision you make has a short-term benefit or consequence and a long-term benefit or consequence.
Well, what would be some of those things? When you say to devaluing yourself, what do you mean by that? I mean, what are some things you see your clients really doing that are not killing this opportunity cost?
Yeah, biggest thing that I'm seeing, and again, I'm not giving tax advice or investment advice over this podcast, is as an entrepreneur, you're maxing out your 401k or IRA or SEP IRA. And okay, so this is how my gut mindset goes. Ellis, you're telling me you want to, build this company, build this message. Awesome. Okay. Then I look at your cash flow and ask the question, how can we increase that? I look at your assets and ask the question, is this asset best positioned to serve you? And I look at your debts and say, you have the best strategy on how to most efficiently pay off your debt? And I look at your 401k and say, okay, how is this actually serving you now and in the future? I could make an argument that even in the future, it's not even a good thing. But even like right now, you're putting your money in a place that you don't necessarily have access to. You're postponing the tax, and I'm pretty sure taxes are going to be higher in the future, especially what's currently going on. And you're giving up total control. That may be good for an employee, by the way. That may be good for someone that has no control over money. It's a good thing that they're locking it up. They can't touch it. But as an entrepreneur, I'm like, listen, do you not think that you can outperform 7%? Like, if that's the case, I don't think you should be an entrepreneur. That's an example. That's a big time example of what I see people doing all the time because they're turning off their brain, quite frankly. And we're literally like, you're doing so many amazing things by making the money, and then you're turning off your brain on what to actually do with the money. And I see entrepreneurs diversifying their impact and their ability to lead by just taking advice from other employees about what they should do with their money, but they don't ask the question, how did I make the money in the first place? I don't know if that makes a lot of sense, but that's like, that's an example of like, of taking advice. I can't tell you if a 401k is good or bad for you. I can tell you if you're an entrepreneur and you need capital, be really careful where you're putting your money and make sure that you can control it throughout your life.
I think it's an excellent point. I think the distinction between an entrepreneur and an employee, and I don't think either one of us mean to be harsh there, but I think that is a good distinction because some people, and it's amazing, my conversations as an investor myself, and I'm raising money for our funds, I can go to someone and say, hey, we got a great opportunity. Are you interested in investing? They say, no, I'm close to retirement. All my money's with a financial advisor. I don't really know what we're doing here, but I don't really control any of that. And it's interesting to me that guy worked 40 years of his life to give all of his future funds to someone he barely knows to do absolutely no idea what he's doing with it, right? Now, what you just said is right on. That's probably the right plan for him because he was never going to take the time in the first place to understand what to do with it any better. As an entrepreneur, that's the opposite. Like you should know what to do. You're working so hard for your money. We know it actually doesn't take that much to outperform 4 or 5% or whatever, your financial advisor is getting. And so I think that's an incredible distinction that, the advice that is giving to the rest of the world, rather it be good or bad, we have to clarify the distinction. Is that also good advice for us? And most of the time what you're saying, it's not. Right? Like it's not, it's catering to the masses. We are not the 99%. We are the 1%. We are the creators, right? We are the kingdom capitalists. I mean, we are how our economy continues to move forward is with ideas, is with creativity, is with innovation.
Yeah. And if you think about this, the reason why people call it infinite banking or bank on yourself is how do banks make money? Like they have all the big buildings, a lot of stadiums have banks. Like, how in the world do banks make money? Well, they just control capital. And the person that's able to control capital will win in the end. And so what I'm trying to get people to do, and what there's many other people out there, is just saying, listen, let's take a chapter out of the bank's book. Instead of hating on the banks, let's say, what are they doing? What concepts are they living by? And how can I apply it in their life? And so that's essentially in a nutshell, is like I could talk all day long about it, but essentially it's reverse engineering a special type of life insurance, saving money, not for the idea of investing, but saving money so that you can use that capital throughout your life, but knowing that you're going to get a long-term conservative tax-free growth rate as well, and giving your dollar multiple jobs. This is what I would say in my journey. One thing that I realized, and this is really weird for me to share this, but I fear poverty. And I'm like, man, why? Like, I really had to ask myself, like, why am I fearing like failing? Why am I fearing like going broke? Because, dude, I'm not actually afraid of being on the streets because I know that you wouldn't even let me. Like, I would call you and I would, get to hang out with you. So it's not that I feared like poverty on like not being able to eat. I feared being a failure. And here I am, have written a book about money, have a company about wealth, and it's like, if I don't quote unquote make it, like that, the failure and the fear of man is just like suffocating. And so I will say this, I had to really look myself in the mirror and like go to take that to the Lord when I started BetterWealth. And it is a daily battle. It's a daily battle because we look at like what's going on now, and 11 people on your team's great, but there's also a thing called payroll and there's a thing called this virus that's potentially affecting. And like, there's so much fear of like, okay, what will people think? Fear of failure and whatever. And like, I'm just like, just sharing with your audience, like I have had to go on my knees and say, Lord, like this business and message is yours. I'm grateful to like be entrusted with it and just being remembered, like we're going to die someday. And I just also want to share this, like one of my best friends and the guy that helped me start BetterWealth died about a year and a half ago to cancer. And I saw him fight for 2 years and eventually lose his life to cancer. And that gives me perspective because I'm like, no matter what happens, like we're grass that's going to fade away. And so that's like the battle that I'm facing. And I don't think it's ever going to go away, but it's something that I've really had to get clarity from to move forward.
So good, man. Welcome everybody to the Kingdom Capitalist Show. This is a very highly anticipated episode. We have on the podcast today, actually I got to stop. Do you know why? Because I actually don't know how to pronounce your last name very well. Dude, oh my goodness. I was like thinking about this for a show. I was like, I got to ask him. Because even on the summit, I like refused to say your last name because I didn't know how to say it. So,
okay, so think
tell
of
me
this.
what it is.
It's like like for guacamole, guac. Say it.
Guilliams.
Yes. Yes.
Williams.
Yes.
Why is that
it's
so
okay if
hard,
you butcher
dude?
it. I don't know.
Oh
my
my
parents
gosh.
got their last name butchered at their wedding, so I'm the most empathetic person when it comes to my last name. Hey, I hope you enjoyed the highlight reel from the Kingdom Capitalist. I would love to hear from you. You can email me at caleb@betterwealth.com. Would love to hear your biggest takeaway either in the comments or email it to me. And again, I think it goes back to how I opened up this podcast. Live an intentional life. Make sure that you're living intentionally. And I'm telling you, going back to just like my life and looking at Greg and the impact that he's had in my life and knowing that now he's not even here, just is a good perspective to know that nothing lasts forever and to be intentional with your family, with your work, with the opportunities. If you're a Christian like myself watching this, like being really intentional with what the Lord's been calling you to do, like all those things are need to be asked, need to be addressed, and I encourage you to do the hard work today, and figure out what you really, really want to do, and then go all in and do it. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you so much for watching. And until next time, have a great rest of your day. Thank you so much for listening to the BetterWealth podcast. It would mean the world to me if you could hit subscribe, leave a review, and share this with the people that you know and love.